Hi, everybody. Here we are, 4 o'clock on Friday. I'm Robin Golinski with Dr. Dennis Becker for 30 minutes of our Outwitting the Manipulator podcast that we live stream initially. And if you're catching us live, you can comment. Otherwise, you're hearing this after the fact. Today, we'd like to talk about why does our society reward manipulators?
Oh, yeah.
So much so that it seems to be, and this maybe, I don't know if this is because we do what we do, Dennis, but it seems to be increasing actually.
Mhm.
More manipulative, more manipulation, both at the personal level, the interpersonal relationship level, and corporate level, corporations
Mm.
and governments, dare I say governments.
Yeah,
So
well, let's might as well say it. It's there. We might as well say it.
might as
Manipulate.
well say it. I wish we were evolutionary biologists, Dennis. I love listening to evolutionary biologists because if I was that smart and I knew a lot about that, I may be able to speak to there's got to be an evolutionary reason for
Yeah,
manipulation.
yeah, yeah.
But the only thing I can do is go to the practical level. And I know, Dennis, you and I agree on this, is that any behavior you reward, you are bound to get repeated. That's across the board with every species, including the
Yeah,
human species.
yep, yep.
So, why are we rewarding bad behavior, Dennis?
Well, I mean, if we take it generally speaking, let's not talk about specific incidences for the moment. Generally speaking, we reward manipulators. We reward manipulation of a certain kind, not every kind of manipulation, but the kind we're talking about today. The reason it gets rewarded is because it makes you feel good, or it promises that you will feel better or you will feel good because of whatever the manipulation is intending.
Instant gratification.
Instant, and sometimes it's not exactly instant, but it's intended to say you will automatically, if you do this for me, or if you elect me to that, you will have this or you will have that. And we see that all the time. And
It's a
it's
very simplistic way of looking at the world when you're being manipulative, I think. I mean, I am thinking out loud here, so chime in if I'm off, but it's black and white, right and wrong, right? Win, specifically, win, lose. And it feels very neat and tidy to think about this right now in the moment. I want this. I want to win this, whatever it is,
yeah, yeah.
without thinking about consequences. That requires a lot of effort. I mean, I'm just wondering if maybe people lapse into manipulation because but like what you said, instant gratification, quick fix, but also they think it's just simpler, a
Hmm.
faster way to get the end, the means to the end of what they want.
Yeah, and it often it does not involve the individual. You may not be able to benefit by this specifically, but the more the manipulator can make you feel or make you think that it does, or make you think that the environment within which you work, but you live, whatever, is going to be better, therefore you will be better, the more quickly and easily it works. And we
But
talked
why
about,
do we reward it by complying with it?
well, it's the same. Let's compare it to another tactic for the manipulator, just for the moment. Just don't get caught on this, but love bombing. Why does love bombing work? Because it makes you feel good. It makes you feel cherished or special or whatever. Love bombing is a popular tactic because it works that way. It makes you instantly feel, oh, nice. This is the same kind of a thing. When manipulators at this big, broader, global, sometimes corporate, certainly political level speak to you, they are promising you things that if you elect them, if you buy their thing, you will have a better life, a better skin, better hair, whatever, better jobs, all of that. Now,
Okay, I'm going to pause you because I agree with you and I think you're onto something, but to dive deeper into the psyche of people, I think I hear what you're saying. It's this false promise, right? Of all these things. But when you're the person and you're hearing it, why do you, I believe that most people know it sounds too good to be true, or they have
Mhm.
that feeling. Not maybe not all the time, because let's face it, the Bernie Madoffs, the Jeffrey Epstein's, there's very sophisticated manipulators. But I'm
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
your run of the mill manipulator. I think a lot of people get a feeling, but they still comply with it because the promise of the ease of the reward, whatever the reward
yeah,
is, and the
sure.
promise of it not forces them. It entices the person to rationalize.
Yeah.
And then that's where I think we do bring this up from time to time where you start manipulating yourself.
Hmm.
That's where you become a partner in the manipulation. So,
Yeah.
but why do we do that? Because as soon as we do that, that's the reward.
Hmm.
The
Right.
reward for the behavior, it emboldens, it strengthens, it empowers the manipulator.
Yeah. And the manipulator doesn't have to do anything about making that thing happen. They just need to
Oh, they
promise.
never had that intention
No,
in the first place.
no, they don't. And they just want you to feel that way. See, what you get from a manipulator who's doing that. And again, we're talking about politics, we're talking about corporate, we're talking about worldwide things, not just an individual across the table from you. What they get is and what you get as the receiver of it, just accept this for a second. What you get is a pathos reaction, an emotional reaction, such as, I feel, oh, that's nice. Whatever it is, it's pathos.
You get a feeling in the moment that you're important, that you're valued, that because they're very good at injecting you with those feelings.
Now, even when I know there were folks out there who were saying, oh, no, but they make logical arguments about this or that and blah, blah. Okay, let's look at that for a second. When there is a logos approach, and remember what we talked about ethos, pathos, and logos in the book and other things, when they use a logos or logical approach, manipulators are still rewarded because almost always they attach a pathos reward
Already
feeling
made up.
to the logos of whatever it is that is being said.
That's right.
And oftentimes, let's take advertising for a moment. When you're when you're when you want to lose weight, when you feel like you're overweight, a manipulator corporation knows that you feel that way. So what do they show you? What do they tell you? You will lose weight. You do this and it's going to. And they show you handsome people. They show you lovely settings in which people have over before and after. They show you what seems to be logical result of using their product. But if you look at it very closely and you listen very carefully, you'll find out that they're really appealing to an emotion in you to get you to logically accept what they're saying to you. Now, in a earlier episode, perhaps you remember, folks, we talked about being curious and being courageous and clinical thinking. We talked about those things as helping you to identify manipulation and so forth. This is what's needed here. And if you don't have it, the manipulator is rewarded. Society rewards people
Right.
who are able to manipulate them with pathos or logos wrapped in pathos. For example,
Right.
look, the easiest example is, and I don't want to use this all the time because we're trying not to be political here, but the easiest place for you to see it, folks, is with politicians. And I'm not naming any particular one because they all do it. They all try, even if they're telling you something that is logos, that is logical, listen carefully. They will cover it, wrap it. They will somehow touch it with emotion, pathos, how you will feel better. You will, your children will, the world will. They will attach something extraordinarily emotional to what they consider to be what they're trying to sell you is a logical explanation or solution to the problem that they're bringing up. You must be curious. You must ask questions. How are you going to do that? Really?
Well, your evolution and I think I want to say our success as a people is our it depends upon us being able to discern, to dissect, to tear that apart, the pathos from the logic. And
Mm-hmm.
this is really where
Hard to do.
Well, it's very hard to do, but each person, each individual needs to really do this for themselves. And yes, it takes energy, it takes effort, it takes thinking.
Yeah.
We have been
Critical.
lulled, coerced even, or lulled into sleepwalking, into
Yes.
going through the motions. And I fear that being American is not an asset because being American, we're a victim of our own success, our own ease of life, our own modern conveniences, which put us in a situation where we don't flex that muscle anymore. We
And
don't have to think
society,
about our safety walking down the sidewalk like they do in India because the sidewalks are broken because I've been there. Or, you don't have to be a thinker. You just take everything for granted.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
you're
that's why Americans get killed on vacation a lot, by the way, because they go, well, if it wasn't safe, there'd be a guardrail or there'd be a sign. And
yeah,
then here
yeah,
comes the wave.
yeah,
Bye, Instagram influencer.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Bye-bye.
yeah,
Out
yeah,
to
yeah.
sea.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going down the rabbit hole, but the thing is that this is really where if we want manipulation not to grow, which it is, each person has to be vigilant. Each person has to be aware of what you're saying, Dennis.
Mhm.
Dissecting the logos from the pathos.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, we like to think that this is an interesting thing from all the research we've ever seen and heard about buying a car. Okay. Now, what is a car? It's a machine. It's made up of parts that have to work. It needs a certain kind of fuel. It has to be able to do this, kick the tires, all of the things that we logically think about when we want to buy a car, drive a car, own a car, have the safety and so forth. All the research shows us that as much as people will go into the dealership and look under the hood and kick the tires and so forth and so forth, the final decision is made on pathos, is made on emotion, is made on the way you're going to feel when you have that. Even if it is to say you will have a greater feeling of security
Mhm.
after they hear all of your logic. You will have a greater feel. Your children will be safer, et cetera, et cetera. So,
I have a couple of brothers, as you know, and a stepson, and I can tell you that young males, they're not young now, but young males truly believe the car gets the girl.
oh yeah, oh sure, not just
Dennis,
young males,
that's
my
as
dear.
old as the age of the
Yeah,
beginning.
I
Yeah,
have friends, and we're not that young. Yeah, I get, especially at this age, when you get
right.
to a little older age, like you've earned all
It
your
still
days,
works. I
you,
still
you
see you and I in Florida. We see it all the time. We
and you
see.
want to, and certain kind of cars like a Thunderbird, like a 65 Thunderbird or a 65 Mustang with a convertible. It's a certain age. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we
I've
know that
never
works.
understood that. I've
No,
never understood
it
a
works.
woman that falls for a female that falls for a male because of his
Yeah,
car.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
get it,
all
but it
right.
happens all the time.
Well, it keeps getting done. Yeah, of course. Nobody is curious enough, courageous enough, and has critical enough thinking skills to question that kind of thing. They just fall for it, so to speak. And I know that's a slang way
They
to
do.
say it,
They
but they
fall for
do.
it
And we all do it. We all do it.
because, and I'll go back to what we said earlier, they want the instant gratification. Let's take a 25-year-old female and she sees, unfortunately, and we'll talk about this age dynamic, but she sees a 40-year-old male and two 40-year-old males. One's driving a red Corvette and the other one is driving a Ford Escort. And she won't even look at the Ford Escort guy because she thinks that the red Corvette guy is successful, is hot,
Yeah.
is got it going on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's leveraged, he's totally in his head over his head in debt. The other guy's got a pension, savings, owns his real estate outright, and because of his smart choices, right? So again, if you're curious and you say, I'm not going to take this at face value, I'm going to dig a little deeper and ask some more questions, you're going to get to the truth of it. And the truth of it is you're signing up for a world of hurt and pain with that guy who's just
And
leveraging.
of course, what a lot of manipulators, really good manipulators, successful societal success, those type entertainers or so people who are famous, so to speak, they have handlers who make sure that if they're going to be in a public setting, that they are surrounded by certain kind of people, that the questions they're going to get have been curated somewhat, that these handlers make it easy for people to be manipulators, to make it look and sound good.
Yes.
I
Oh my
recall.
God. Remember the story I told about the Suburban and the red carpet with
Oh
my in
yeah.
another
Oh,
podcast. But
now
I will
just
tell you another one that my dad did when we were little. We were standing in line at Disney World and my dad said, "Watch this." He whispered to us kids. I was like 9 and the rest were younger than me. He pointed at something at the ceiling and he elbowed all of us. He goes, "Check this out." And he kept pointing at it and looking at it until he had the entire line, hundreds of people in the 45-minute line for the ride, all staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what he was doing, what he was
yeah.
looking. But none of them asked him. They
Curious.
all are breaking their necks staring at the ceiling. Nobody said, "Excuse me,
What?
sir,
What?
what are you pointing at?" Which, that's
Yeah.
something I would do.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something that I do. And many
Yeah.
people in my life are like, "Oh my God, what is she doing? You're embarrassing me. Why are you asking those questions?"
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Now, let me give you a fairly recent example of manipulation that I've seen. Um, and I want to talk a little bit about politics without naming names because the manipulation is the name of the game in
Easy
politics.
to do. They're all guilty.
I won't talk about who
Well,
this
and I
candidate
say
is,
they're guilty, but it's almost like they don't have a choice. Like you're not even going to show up
but
unless you
here's the
claw your way
example.
there.
This candidate is trying to achieve certain uh, approval by certain kind of participants and people in the audience. Okay, and so let's say that they were steel workers. Doesn't have to be a race thing, but they were steel workers, and he's talking to a group that is not necessarily steel workers, but they find two steel workers in the audience, bring them up to the stage, plant them behind the speaker, the manipulator, behind them so that when the camera is on the speaker, the manipulator, these two steelworkers are right behind. So it looks like the person who's at home seeing the video this big, that there are steelworkers there. There's only two in the whole place, but
It's
they
so easy.
manipulated the thinking of everybody by putting them in careful. This is why they always wear a certain suit and tie. They always
That's
have to wear a certain,
orchestration. We
it's
talk about that.
all,
Setting
and
the
we reward that. We say, oh, look at that. We don't question it. We don't challenge it. We reward it. And that's why we're talking to you folks.
We
Don't
don't
allow
question
those kind of things to
anything.
happen
We're
to you.
passive receivers. We've been
Yeah, yeah.
brainwashed, and COVID didn't advance us, evolve us. We sat around watching Netflix, binge watching everything, passively receiving instead of critically thinking, problem solving, inquiring. This is what you need to do. You need to
All right.
exercise that muscle. Why?
Okay. All right. Let's talk. Let's turn the page here, turn the corner. What should you do? How can we help these folks, Robin? Because we all recognize, and even when you recognize it, somebody, but they don't take advantage of it, even though they know it. They just ignore it, just let it happen. All right. What can you do? Okay. When it comes to sort of advertising on television, there's not much you can do except watch it. You can't yell at the screen. And what are you going to do? You can not buy the product, perhaps. But if they've given it sweet enough and enough pathos and enough little tiny print at the bottom where the logos, they give you enough of all of that, maybe buy the product. What can you do? And with politicians and others, when corporations do something that's called greenwashing right now, where they talk about how they're going to help things and they give water funds to clean the water, but meanwhile out the back door they're sending all the pollutants out the back door. There's so many
I
different
always
ways.
think about that phrase. And I think it's a Shakespeare phrase. I'm not sure. It's called "The lady doth protest too much."
Too
It
much, yeah,
always
yeah, yeah.
pops in my head.
Okay,
Whenever somebody's honking a horn, like tooting, promoting something and go waxing on about it, that to me is a red flag.
well, I'll tell you what.
That's
So what we asked the question, what can we give folks to do about this? All right, I want to give you a couple of thoughts and take it or leave it, but we know this is what you have to do as part of society. We're all part of society. How do we stop this? One of the first things that you have to be able to do, at least in your own mind, is to be curious enough, be courageous enough to ask validation, verification, proof that.
Well,
Now,
people did that
this
with
is,
Bernie
listen,
Madoff, and he gave it to them.
okay, but this is not, and this is not easy, folks,
Right,
because
because you have to dig deep
remember,
sometimes.
it gets packaged with pathos, smiles, name calling,
Charm, winks,
dramatic
nods,
charm. It gets
gifts,
packaged so easily.
compliments.
Please be curious enough to say, what? That sounds great. How is that going to happen? How are we going to do that? Do you have the support for that? Be curious enough to ask and then have the courage enough to ask the question of those manipulators who are selling you, saying those things to you, and get them to sell you logically, not just emotionally. That's love bombing, remember? That's what that's all about. Get them to explain to you on a basis of logic that what they're selling you, telling you, is actually true. You
Okay,
will not be manipulated as easily if you do that.
I want to add something to that. I agree with that. There's the same, right, along the lines of what you're saying, Dennis, but asking them what might the unintended consequences be, or allow your brain to take whatever it is they're trying to persuade you to do and say, well, if that happens, won't this happen? And then if that happens, so this is where you have to think creatively, and you have to be bold. You have to be creative and courageous and say, it just doesn't make sense that that lifetime guarantee lint roller will never break. And let's say it does break. Are you really going to replace it 20 years from now? How do I know you're still going to be in business?
Yeah, yeah.
Believe me, if you were somebody who started asking those questions when I was trying to sell as many lifetime guarantee lint rollers, Mr. Stickies, that I could, told that story in another episode, I would have cut you off because I wouldn't want you to infect my people that I've already persuaded.
Yeah.
And this is how it goes. We only need one creative, courageous person, courageous, too many C words. We only need one bold person to ask questions, and they may never be answered. But guess what? You help everybody else start thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. I have several clients in Washington, D.C., government clients in Washington, and I am constantly running up against the PACs, political action committees, who spend their time figuring out how to answer the if that then what question, and they're not looking for if then now what question. Then they're looking for how do I get them back?
Right. That's all they care about. How do I shut it down?
How do I shut it down?
How do I
Because we
smooth it
can't
over?
get
How do
into
I
that.
erase it so it doesn't stick in people's minds?
And the
Because
more
they want to control the momentum of the moment.
this goes back to our topic, the more they're able to do that and to fix these things in pathos. And sometimes they figure not a nice pathos. They want to say and do things that make you angry, that make
Or
you
insult
insecure.
you,
This is
or make
pathos as
you
well.
embarrassed, because
To
then
make you,
that'll shut you
so
up.
it's not going to be just about love bombing, like they're going to make you feel good. No, sometimes they deliberately want to make you angry at a specific gender, a specific product, a specific color of people. They're doing it on purpose. And every
Don't
time
let others
when you
control
don't question, when you don't challenge, and you don't have that courage, you are rewarding the manipulator.
That's right. They get a huge dopamine rush as soon as they see they've triggered you, because they're controlling your emotions. And this is, in a bigger picture, this is what's dividing society.
Yeah, of course, and because the
It,
manipulation happens on all sides. They're all
right.
doing it. So you have to be curious and courageous enough to challenge it, even if you can only challenge it in your own mind. Don't let yourself be manipulated
Exactly.
by what? That
Yeah,
sounds so
exactly.
great.
Even if it's only in your own mind, if you don't have the courage to say something because you know this person's going to get nasty, personal, publicly
Yeah.
humiliate you,
Yeah.
at least create a boundary in your own mind.
Yeah. We're trying to help you. We're not here to be able to save society, but society
Well,
is
this is
you.
how you save society, one person at a time. Each
That's
person
right.
taking
That's right.
responsibility for their compliance
Yeah.
in manipulative tactics.
And
The
that's
more you know, the more
compliance.
you can unknow.
And you see that Robin's word, compliance. If you don't do these things we're talking about, you don't get curious and have the courage to ask clinically, critically if you don't question these things, you are being compliant. if you just, okay, well, I can't, no,
You're
that's
manipulating
compliance.
yourself.
You're
You're
doing it to
manipulating
yourself.
yourself. You are now a partner in crime
Yeah.
with the manipulator because you're brainwashing yourself.
So have the courage, folks. Our message to you today is be curious, because manipulation's all over, not just with that person that you're concerned about. It's everywhere. It's at work, it's in society, it's on television, it's in corporations, it's certainly in politics. It's
Whenever somebody's lips are moving,
That's right. There cannot
it's
be
happening.
manipulation, no manipulation
Right.
without communication. That's where we're
Right.
cautioning you to be curious, to have the courage to ask the questions, and to do the critical thinking that will put you in charge of the momentum of the moment, not let you become a target. So that's what
Critical
we're
and
talking about
creative.
today.
Sometimes you have to be creative too.
All right. Well, we're about up to time, Robin.
That
So
went by fast, Dennis.
I know. Well, it's the
That's
kind
a
of thing.
juicy topic.
You know what? That type of manipulation here. Listen to this, folks. That type of manipulation stirs a pathos in me. I get so
Me too.
angry with the pathos. I get so
Me
upset,
too.
and it bothers me so much when I see it and hear it. I ask
This is our
questions, and
mission.
I'll challenge.
This
We're
is our
urging you to
mission.
do the
I'm
same.
telling you.
Do the same.
Please share this podcast with
Yeah.
other people. Please rate it. We're going to continue to dig deep on this stuff. And we
We're
want
here
to
every
change
Friday.
the
We're here
trajectory of the human species.
every Friday at 4 o'clock. We'll be with you. So see us again next week. You didn't catch all of it this week. See us again next week, and we'll have another interesting topic about manipulation. But now, get
You
curious.
can catch it live on our Facebook page, Outwitting the
yes.
Manipulator.
Good. Thank you
That's
for
where you
saying
catch it
that.
live, 4
I always,
o'clock Eastern time.
I always forget about those.
That's okay. That's why there's two of us.
I
Together we
I'm
make a
emotional
little
about
brain.
this stupid topic that manipulators bother me so much.
Right.
All right. Now, who am I? I'm Dr. Dennis Becker, and this is my colleague, Robin Golinski, and we're delighted to have had you with us today. So thanks for listening, and bye for now.